I sat alone in my living room. The quiet humming of the house, the only sound that filled the space. The old walls, lined with memories and faded photographs, stood like silent witnesses to a past that felt increasingly distant. The scent of old wood mingled with the faint trace of the flowers my husband used to plant in the garden, wrapped around me, comforting, yet suffocating. Hear the occasional creak of the floorboards upstairs as my son James shuffled around, probably searching for something. But he wouldn't talk to me unless it was absolutely necessary. That was the way it had always been. I ran my fingers over the edges of an old family photo album, the pages brittle with age. There were pictures of a time when this house had been full of laughter, my children running through the hallways, their faces bright with innocence. Back then, I was the matriarch. I was the one they leaned on, the one they turned to for strength. But now, I was just a shadow in the background. My thoughts wandered back to the days when James was younger. I could almost hear his voice calling out to me, asking for advice, for help. Those days felt so long ago. Yet it was only yesterday that I had been his world. Now, I was invisible, and so was the farm, the place that had been in our family for generations. My family's pride and legacy was slipping away, bit by bit, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. I sighed and closed the album, setting it on the coffee table. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, marking the passing of time. Time that had always felt so much more significant when I was younger, when the days seemed to last forever. Now, every tick felt like a reminder of how much I had lost. It was then that I overheard them, James and Marie, his wife. They didn't know I was there, sitting in the quiet, waiting for my son to come to me. I wasn't supposed to be privy to their conversation, but I couldn't help myself. The sound of their voices drifted through the crack in the door. I heard Marie's high-pitched voice first, urging James to do what was necessary. To sell the farm, to settle the debts they'd accumulated over the years. The words hit me like a slap to the face. Sell the farm? My heart raced, and I found myself standing, my legs trembling. They were going to sell the place? The land that had seen my ancestors grow. The land where my own children had played in their youth, gone. And then I heard something that twisted the knife deeper into my chest. Marie, my daughter-in-law, had been pushing this idea. She wasn't just content with running the house. No, she was involved in this decision, steering James toward the choice I could never imagine him making. My only child was being manipulated. For a moment, I didn't know whether to scream or cry. But instead, I stood there, frozen. The very idea that my family would sell this land, the land that my parents and their parents had fought for, was unthinkable. I had worked my whole life to make sure this farm stayed in the family. I had sacrificed so much, given up so many years of my own happiness, and this is how I was repaid. The betrayal ran deeper than just the sale of the land. It was the realization that my son had been swayed so easily. The thought of it made me feel invisible, like I was no longer seen or heard, not even by the people I loved most. I could feel my hands shaking as I gripped the arm of the chair. I'd raised James to respect the family, to honor the past. But now it was clear that all of it, my life's work, meant nothing to him. It was all slipping away, and he wasn't even aware of the weight of what he was doing. I couldn't sit here forever, paralyzed by shock and hurt. This farm wasn't just a piece of land, it was mine. I had worked too hard, fought too long to let it go without a fight. But how? How could I even begin to change the course of events? For years, I had been the one to hold my family together. I had been the one to keep everything from falling apart. Now, it seemed like I had nothing left. No one to turn to. But then, something shifted within me. As I stood there, hearing James and Marie's voices echo through the house, I knew one thing for sure. Silence would not save me. Silence had never saved me. It had only kept me in the background, unseen and unheard. I thought about everything I had done for my family. All the years of working the farm, raising my children, supporting my husband, never asking for anything in return. I had given so much of myself to them. And now they were taking the one thing I had left, my legacy. But I wasn't going to let them take this from me. Not without a fight. I walked toward the window, looking out over the land that had been part of my family for as long as I could remember. The fields were still there, stretching out in front of me. A reminder of all that had been and all that could still be. It was time to take back what was mine. I couldn't just let this happen. I wouldn't. And so, with my heart pounding and my mind set, I made a decision. Wasn't going to let the farm go without a fight. But more than that, I wasn't going to let my family destroy me. It was time to stand up for myself. The silence would end here. The house felt quieter now. Too quiet. I stood by the window, staring out over the familiar fields that had been home for so many years. The smell of the old wood, the creak of the floorboards. Beneath my feet, it all felt suffocating. A reminder of everything slipping away. The world outside was changing, and I had no control over it. Not anymore. It had only been a few days since I overheard James and Marie talking about selling the farm. Since then, everything had felt different. There was a weight in the air, a tension that wouldn't let up. I had kept my silence, but that silence was growing harder and harder to bear. It was time for confrontation. It was time for answers. When James finally came over, I was ready, though I didn't feel ready at all. My hands shook, and my chest was tight with a mix of anger and hurt. I had spent my whole life working for this family, for this farm, and it felt like everything I had done meant nothing. I opened the door when I heard his footsteps on the porch, my heart racing in my chest. "Come in, James," I called, my voice softer than I had intended. I tried to sound calm, but inside, I was anything but. He walked in, looking tired, as usual. His eyes tired like he hadn't slept in days. He gave me a small smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Mom, how are you?" he asked, but there was something in his tone, something that told me he knew I wasn't okay. I didn't want to waste time with pleasantries. I had waited long enough. I wasn't going to stay silent anymore. "James," I started, my voice barely a whisper, but heavy with emotion. "You're selling the farm. You're selling everything we've worked for. And I need to know why." His face shifted, a look of guilt flickering across his features. He didn't say anything at first. Just stood there, awkwardly, avoiding my gaze. Finally, he spoke. "Mom," he began, his voice low. "It's not that simple. We're in debt. And Marie, she thinks it's the best option." Marie. My heart sank. I knew then that she had been the one pushing this idea. It wasn't just James. But there was more. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "I know Marie wants this. But what about you, James? What about us? What about the legacy your grandfather left behind?" My words were sharp, bitter, cutting through the air between us. I wasn't angry at him. Not exactly, but the hurt, the betrayal. It was overwhelming. He shifted on his feet, his eyes now looking at the ground. "Mom, it's hard. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't know how to fix this. I've been hiding things from you." That was when it hit me. He wasn't just talking about the farm. He was talking about everything. The years of distance, the secrets, the weight of it all, had finally broken through. "I'm drowning in debt," he finally admitted, his voice breaking. "I didn't know how to tell you. But Marie, She's been trying to figure out how to get out of it. Selling the farm, was her idea. But I agreed to it. I thought it was the only way. I felt the sting of his words deep in my chest. My son, my own flesh and blood, had been manipulated by the very woman I had welcomed into our family. The woman who had pushed him to destroy everything I had worked for. Betrayal felt like a slap in the face. And it cut deeper than anything I had ever felt before. I took a step back, my legs weak beneath me. The anger, the hurt, the confusion, it was all too much. How had I missed this? How had I let it go on for so long? But I couldn't let myself break down. Not now. Not when the stakes were this high. I forced myself to speak again. My voice low and steady, though every word felt like it was ripping me apart. James, don't you see? The farm isn't just a piece of land. It's everything we've built. It's the last thing your father and I had to give. You can't just throw that away. He looked at me, his face filled with guilt. I don't know what to do anymore. It's too much. But I couldn't let him off the hook. You're not alone in this, James. You never were. You had a mother who would have stood by you. But now, you've put me in a position where I don't know how to save how to save our family. His face twisted in frustration. I didn't want this, Mom. I never did. But it's just everything's falling apart and I don't know how to stop it. I could feel the tears pricking at the back of my eyes. But I refused to let them fall. I had to be strong. Not for me, but for this farm. For the legacy that my family had worked so hard to build. You should have told me, James, I said. My voice now barely a whisper. You should have trusted me. We could have figured this out together. But now, it's too late. I turned away, my heart heavy with disappointment. The silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. I didn't know what to say anymore. Just as I was about to speak, a flash of something in the drawer caught my eye. Something that I hadn't thought about in years. Old financial records. Papers that I had long forgotten about. Buried deep in the back of a drawer in my office. I walked over to the desk, my hands trembling. I flipped through the papers. Something caught my eye, something that stopped me cold. The mortgage papers for Marie's family's land. The very land she had convinced James to sell. And there it was, in black and white. I had co-signed the mortgage. I had the leverage. Suddenly, everything changed. I wasn't powerless. I had a card to play. And I wasn't going to let it slip through my fingers. I closed the drawer and looked back at James, who was still standing in the same spot. I knew then that the battle was just beginning, but it was one I was ready to fight. The farm wasn't just a piece of land. It was my pride, my legacy. And I wasn't about to let anyone take it from me. The morning light filtered through the thin curtains, casting a soft glow over the room. I woke up with a sense of finality in the pit of my stomach. Yesterday, everything felt like it was slipping through my fingers. Today, I was going to fight for what was mine. No more silence. No more letting things happen to me. Today, I would take control. The years had taught me a lot, but today, I was realizing something deeper. All this time, I had been the silent sufferer. The one who kept quiet. Who allowed things to happen in the name of family. But the truth was, I'd been invisible. Swept aside, and I couldn't bear it anymore. When the one thing that defined me, the farm, was on the line. I dressed slowly, taking my time. I needed to be calm, to think. This wasn't just about fighting for the farm anymore. It was about fighting for my place in my family, my life. And if I had to make it known that I wouldn't be silenced again, so be it. With the weight of this new resolve, I walked into town, every step heavy with purpose. The small town I had lived in all my life now felt like a battleground. I didn't know what was waiting for me, but I was ready. Air felt different as I walked past the familiar faces I had known for years. It was almost as though everyone could sense something had shifted in me. They didn't know it, but this wasn't the same Evie they'd known before. This Evie was done being the quiet, passive woman who let life happen to her. When I reached the lawyer's office, I paused for a moment before stepping inside. My heart raced as I pushed the door open. The smell of old paper and leather greeted me. I had trusted this man for years, and now I needed him more than ever. Evie, he greeted me with a warm smile, but his eyes quickly turned serious. Come in, take a seat. I can see something's different. What's on your mind? I sat down, trying to steady myself. I need your help, I said, my voice low but firm. I've found something. I need to know what it means. He listened quietly as I told him everything about the farm, the mortgage, and how I had uncovered the truth. His expression remained neutral, but I could see the gears turning in his mind. You're not wrong to be concerned, Evie, he finally said. There's something I need to tell you. The mortgage may not be as straightforward as you think. There are strings attached, things that could complicate things further. The weight of his words settled over me. For the first time, I understood how deep this had gone. It wasn't just about a piece of land, it was about control, about power. And I wasn't the only one trying to pull the strings. I left the lawyer's office, feeling more resolved than ever. This wasn't just a fight for the farm anymore. It was about my identity, my honor, and everything I had worked for. I wasn't going to let anyone take it from me. Not now. Not ever. As I made my way home, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out and saw a text from an old friend, a name I hadn't seen in years. It was from Edie, a neighbor, from when James was little. She'd worked on the farm with me, side by side, for years. The message was brief. I know what's going on. Meet me at the diner. I have something important to tell you. I didn't hesitate. Had a feeling this was the piece of the puzzle I needed. I needed all the help I could get. When I arrived at the diner, Edie was already sitting at a booth near the back. She looked the same, though there was a tiredness in her eyes that hadn't been there before. As I sat down, she didn't waste any time. Marie's father, Edie said, her voice low. You don't know this, but he's been involved in some shady financial dealings. I've seen things. I didn't want to say anything back then, but now. She trailed off, her gaze intense. I know you don't want to hear this, but Marie's been hiding a lot from James. And it's not just about the farm. It's about a lot more than that. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. This was bigger than I thought. I had always suspected that there was more to Marie than I had been led to believe. But this was different. This was about trust, about the lies that had been woven into my family's very foundation. I need to know more, I said, leaning forward. Anything. You have any documents, anything? Edie nodded, her face grim. I'll help you, Evie. I owe you that much. But this is dangerous. You have to be careful. I didn't hesitate. I'm ready. I've been quiet for too long. If they think they can take everything from me, they've got another thing coming. As I left the diner, a storm of emotions swirled inside me. I knew the path ahead would be difficult. But I also knew one thing. This was my fight. And I wasn't going to back down. When I got home, I found James sitting on the porch, his head in his hands. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. And for a moment, I wondered if he even cared anymore. But I wasn't there to ask for his forgiveness. I wasn't there to beg him to change his mind. I had a different conversation in mind now. James, I said, my voice calm but unwavering. We need to talk. He looked up, surprised to see me standing there with such resolve. Mom, no, I cut him off. You don't get to explain yourself anymore. I've given you the space to do that for years. But now, it's my turn. His face shifted, confusion clouding his features. What are you talking about? You've been lied to, James. And I'm done watching it happen. As the words left my mouth, I realized I had crossed a line. There was no going back now. But I didn't care. I wasn't going to let anyone steal what was rightfully mine, my farm, my family, and my dignity. The storm was brewing, and I was ready for it. I woke up with the morning sun creeping through the window, casting long shadows across the worn hardwood floors. The house was silent, too silent. The kind of silence that presses down on you like a heavy weight. The kind that makes your chest tight and your thoughts louder. It wasn't just another day. It was the day I had been dreading and preparing for all at once. Yesterday, my son James had walked away from me, his face full of confusion and hurt. Today, I couldn't afford to let that stand. It had to end. There was no more room for uncertainty. No more room for walking on eggshells. The truth had to come out. And I had to stand my ground. The farm wasn't just land, it was my legacy, built from sweat and tears. And I would be damned if I let anyone take that from me. Not Marie, not James, and not anyone else. I sat at the kitchen table, the mug of coffee in front of me growing cold, as I stared down at the letter I had found the night before. It was from my late husband, the one I had all but forgotten about, tucked away in an old drawer for years. His handwriting was so familiar, even after all this time, and reading his words felt like he was still here beside me. The letter spoke of his hopes for the farm, how he wanted it to stay in the family. A place of love and togetherness. Even after he was gone, I wasn't just fighting for the farm anymore. I thought to myself, folding the letter carefully. I was fighting for everything he believed in, for everything we worked for. I, alone in this fight. His words would be my strength. I tucked the letter into my coat pocket and stood up, taking a long breath. The truth was painful, but it was also my weapon now. And I wasn't going to let anyone take that from me. I called James over. He arrived a little later than I had expected, his face still etched with confusion. But I wasn't there to talk in circles. Today, I wasn't the woman who waited patiently for answers. I was the woman who demanded them. James, I said, looking him directly in the eye as he walked through the door. We need to talk. This silence has gone on long enough. He shifted uncomfortably, glancing at the floor before meeting my gaze. Mom, I don't know what else to say. I told you, I'm doing what I have to do. His words stung, but I wasn't backing down. What you have to do? I asked, my voice steady, but heavy with emotion. You mean, what Marie has told you to do? She's the one pushing you to sell the farm, isn't she? I've seen it. I've heard you both talking about it. His face paled, and for the first time, I saw guilt flicker in his eyes. But he quickly masked it. It's not that simple, Mom. We're in a lot of debt. You don't understand what it's like. I crossed my arms. I don't understand. I spent my entire life working this farm. James, I built this with your father. And now, you're telling Me, you're willing to let it go. Without a fight? Because it's easier? My voice broke, but I pushed through. How could you let this happen? To your own family's legacy? There was a long silence. The words I'd wanted to say for years were finally spilling out, and they felt like a weight lifted from my chest, but also a knife digging deeper into my heart. He couldn't look me in the eye. He was ashamed. But Marie's hold on him was stronger than I had realized. And then, just as I was about to speak again, the door flung open. Marie stepped inside, her eyes flashing with anger. What's this about, Evie? She demanded, her voice sharp. Dismissive. You really think you can stop this? You don't get to control everything. I felt my blood boil. She was trying to control everything. My son. My farm. My family. This isn't just about you, Marie. I snapped, my patience thinning. This is about what's right. And you've been lying to James. He doesn't even know the truth about the mortgage. The truth about what his father and I did for this land. Marie laughed, the sound condescending. You think your old secrets matter now? This is 2025, Evie. Things don't work the way they did back then. You can't keep holding on to everything. It's not healthy. Let it go. The words were like a slap to my face. But they only made me more resolute. You think I don't know what's going on? I said, stepping closer to her. I know all about your father's debts. The way he used your family's land to get loans. How you've been covering it up. How you've been manipulating James all along. Her face flushed, and I saw a flicker of panic in her eyes. But she didn't back down. Instead, she glared at me. Her lips curled in a snarl. You don't know anything. You're old, Evie. You're out of touch. Let your son make decisions. For his future. You should just go home and let us handle this. I took a deep breath, standing tall. You don't get to tell me what to do. Not anymore. I've been silent for too long. And you've taken advantage of that. But I'm not going to sit back and let you destroy everything my family has worked for. Not anymore. Marie's face twisted, and I could see the power play unraveling. Was no longer just about the farm, it was about asserting control over my life. Over my dignity. I turned to James, my voice steady. You need to choose, son. You can't have it both ways. You can't betray me and think everything will be fine. Not anymore. I'm done being the quiet one. The one who lets you walk all over me. It's time for you to face the truth. And for me to take my stand. James looked between Marie and me. His eyes wide, the weight of the moment sinking in. I could see the conflict in him. But it was too late for him to back away now. The lines were drawn. This battle wasn't just about property, it was about the heart of our family. I knew what I had to do. I wasn't just fighting for the farm anymore. I was fighting for my legacy, my honor. And for the future I had built with my own 2 hands. The courthouse was cold. The kind of cold that made you shiver. Even when the sun was fighting its way through the morning clouds. Felt it deep in my bones as I walked in. My shoes clicking sharply on the tile floor. I'd been here before, but never like this. This wasn't about the small town cases or the petty squabbles I'd seen years ago. This was my fight, my moment. The battle wasn't just for the farm. It was for my dignity. For my son's respect. For my family's honor. As I stepped into the courtroom, I could feel my heart beating loud in my chest. James was there, sitting near the front. Eyes glued to the floor. He wouldn't look at me. The sight of him stirred something deep inside me, a mix of anger heartbreak, and confusion. How did we get here? How did this man, my boy, turn into someone I didn't even recognize? But there was no turning back. The fight had begun. I took my seat, trying to steady my breath. The courtroom was tense, filled with people waiting for the drama to unfold. My lawyer was sitting beside me, ready. His face calm but firm. I could feel the weight of everything pressing down on me. This wasn't just about the farm anymore. This was about everything that had been taken from me. My trust, my family, my life as I knew it. The moment I locked eyes with James, I knew this fight wasn't just for the farm, it was for everything he had stolen from me, including my heart. The opposing side, led by Marie and her slick lawyer, wasted no time in trying to paint me as the villain. Every word from their side was designed to make me look like a bitter, vengeful woman, desperate to hold on to something she no longer had a right to. The back and forth was exhausting, but I wasn't about to let them control the narrative. Marie's lawyer spoke in smooth, calculated tones, trying to undermine everything I stood for. Evie Ford, once a respected matriarch, now fighting against her own son and his family. For money and pride, he said. His words like a dagger, aimed straight at my heart. She's been neglected, yes. But isn't it time to let go? I could feel the anger bubbling up inside me, but I refused to show it. I kept my eyes fixed ahead, my body tense, but my expression calm. They wanted a fight, but they'd get a battle they didn't expect. Marie's turn to testify came next. She stood up, moving, with a grace that I knew was calculated. Her words dripped with sweetness, but there was an undercurrent of venom that made my blood run cold. Evie hasn't been a mother to James for years, she said, her voice laced with false concern. She's always been about her farm, about the past. Isn't about the land. This is about her pride. She's so determined to hold on to something she doesn't even understand anymore. Her words stung, cutting deep. But I wasn't about to let her win. I clenched my fists under the table, feeling my nails dig into my palms. No. This wasn't just about the farm anymore. It was about who I was. It was about what I stood for. I stood up, my voice steady as I addressed the court. Marie can say whatever she wants. I began, my tone calm but firm. But what she won't tell you is how she manipulated James. How she used my son's fears and insecurities to tear apart this family. This isn't about pride or money. This is about truth. And I'm here to make sure that truth is heard. The room fell silent. I could feel the eyes of everyone in the courtroom on me. Even James looked up. A flicker of something, shock, regret, maybe even fear, flashing across his face. But just as I thought I had their attention, the courtroom doors opened, and in walked someone I hadn't expected. My lawyer's colleague, someone I hadn't seen in years, approached me with a serious look on his face. He handed me a file. I opened it quickly, and there, staring back at me, was an email, one I didn't expect to see. It was from my late husband. It wasn't just a letter. It was a piece of evidence. He had written about the financial troubles Marie's family had gotten into years ago. About how they used my trust to secure loans. It was the last piece of the puzzle I needed. The room was silent as I read the email aloud for the court. I didn't know what Marie and her family had done, but I know now. I said, my voice shaking, with a mix of rage and relief. This isn't just about the farm. This is about trust, about family, and about Marie's lies. Marie's face twisted, in anger as she heard the words. It was a look I had never seen on her before. She tried to hide it, but it was clear that everything she had worked for was unraveling. I turned to face James, my heart heavy. You don't get to walk away from this. James. You don't to act like you were just a victim in all of this. You knew, and you chose to stay silent. The silence in the courtroom was deafening. But I wasn't done yet. This is not just about the farm. I continued, my voice now steady and powerful. This is about me, about who I am, and about the family I built. I am worth more than the lies and betrayal. And I will not be forgotten. James stood up, his eyes filled with confusion and shame. He tried to speak, but the words seemed to catch in his throat. He couldn't even look at me. He knew what he had done, and it was too late to fix it. The tension in the courtroom was thick. But for the first time in years, I didn't feel weak. I didn't feel invisible. I felt strong. I wasn't asking for justice anymore. I was demanding it. I had reclaimed my voice. The morning after the courtroom drama felt like a storm was brewing. The house was quiet, but there was a tension in the air that could almost be touched. I hadn't slept much the night before. My mind kept running, replaying every word, every look, every painful revelation. But as I stood by the window, staring out at the farm, something inside me had shifted. I wasn't the same woman who walked into that courtroom a few days ago. I wasn't the woman who had been silenced, ignored, and betrayed. I was done with all of that. I was standing firm. I took a deep breath, the weight of the moment settling on me. Today wasn't about the farm. It wasn't about the court case. It was about me. For years, I had been nothing but a shadow in my own life, my own family. But now I was ready to take control. I had nothing left to lose. And I wasn't about to let anyone, least of all James and Marie, dictate my future any longer. As I sat at the kitchen table, my hands trembling slightly, the memories began to flood back. How had it all gone so wrong? I had worked so hard, given so much. I raised James, taught him right from wrong, sacrificed everything for this family. And yet, here I was, fighting for a piece of land that had been in our family for generations. Fighting for my dignity. Fighting for my life. I could still hear my husband's voice, soft and loving, telling me how proud he was of everything we had built together. But he was gone now, and I was left to pick up the pieces. And as much as I hated what had happened, what James had done to me, I knew that this fight was bigger than him. This fight was for my future, for my peace of mind, and for everything I had worked for. The front door creaked open, and I knew who it was. Before I even looked up. James. I hadn't expected him to come. After everything, I thought, he'd be too ashamed to show his face. But there he was, standing in the doorway, looking lost and uncomfortable, like a child caught in a lie. "Mom, I owe you an apology," he started, his voice low and uncertain. "But we need to talk." I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want his apologies or his guilt. I didn't want to be that woman anymore, the one who always forgave, always took the hurt, always put everyone else first. I wasn't that woman anymore. But I couldn't just let him off the hook either. I had to face him. I turned to face him, my eyes hardening. "Talk? What's there left to say, James? You lied to me. You betrayed me. And for what? To protect Marie and her schemes?" His face crumpled, guilt written all over it. "I didn't want to hurt you, Mom. But I didn't know what else to do. Marie. She told me it was the only way. We were drowning in debt. She said, you knew about the mortgage. You knew about the land." I cut him off, my voice shaking with the weight of my anger. "And you still went along with it. You didn't care about me. You didn't care about our family. You just cared about her." He flinched as though my words physically struck him. I didn't want to lose everything. he whispered, his voice cracking. I didn't want to lose you. I stared at him, my heart torn between the motherly instinct to protect him and the woman I had become. I had given him everything, but he had turned his back on me. And now, here he was, trying to fix what was already broken. I'm not the one who needs fixing, James, I said, my voice steady. You're the one who needs to make things right. As I stood there, facing the son I once adored, I realized something. This wasn't about forgiveness. This was about holding him accountable. Holding all of them accountable. It wasn't just Marie who had manipulated me, it was him too. And it was time for that to stop. Just then, I heard the unmistakable sound of a car pulling up. I knew who it was before the door opened. Marie, she walked in, as calm and calculated as ever, her eyes scanning the room before landing on me. She wasn't even trying to hide the smugness on her face. Evie, she said, her voice sweet but laced with something else, something darker. James and I were just... Save it, I interrupted, my voice icy. I know what you've been doing, Marie. I know exactly what you've been trying to pull. Her smile faltered, but only for a second. I don't know what you're talking about, she said, feigning innocence. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I walked over to the desk, grabbed the letter I'd found earlier, the one from Marie to James, and slammed it down on the table in front of her. You think I'm blind? You think I don't know what you've been planning all along? I snapped. This letter proves everything. You tried to manipulate my son into betraying me. You tried to take what wasn't yours. And now, you're going to pay for it. Marie's face drained of color as she looked at the letter. For a moment, she said nothing. Then, her mask slipped completely. She tried to lie, to deny it. But I saw through her facade. You think you can control me? I asked, my voice calm, but filled with fury. Think again. Her world crumbled right in front of her. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. She was finally caught. James didn't say anything. He stood there, his face pale, as the weight of the situation sank in. I turned to him, my voice low but firm. Now, James, it's time for you to make it right. I'm done being your pawn. James looked at me, and, for the first time, I didn't feel the need to protect him. I wasn't going to shield him anymore from the consequences of his actions. He had made his choice. Now, he would face it. Marie was done manipulating me. And James? Well, he had one last chance to make things right. But I wasn't going to let my heart rule my head this time. The house felt too still, too quiet. The weight of the past few days was heavy on my chest as I paced back and forth. My thoughts a tangled mess of anger, hurt, and determination. I had fought for years, quietly, patiently, bearing the weight of my family's expectations, their lies, and their betrayals. But today, I wasn't that woman anymore. Today, I was standing firm, ready to take back everything I'd lost. The clock on the wall ticked, each second a reminder of the moment I was about to face. I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was coming to a head. The betrayal from James, the manipulations from Marie, it had all led me here. I had been weak for too long, letting their games run my life. But not anymore. I glanced out the window, at the land my husband and I had built. The land I had fought so hard to preserve, and it hit me, the fight wasn't just about the farm. It was about me. It was about my right to be seen, to be heard, and to finally demand the respect I'd earned. The door creaked open behind me, and I didn't have to turn around to know who it was. James. His footsteps were tentative, but I wouldn't let that sway me. This was my moment, and I wasn't going to let him ruin it. Mom, he started, his voice shaky. I know I've hurt you. But I need you to listen. I didn't even flinch. I've listened enough, James. You've had your chance to make it right. Now it's my turn. I turned to face him. My voice calm but filled with steel. You've lied to me. You've betrayed me for her. I gestured toward the door. Where Marie stood, her presence a silent accusation in itself. James flinched, looking between me and Marie, his face full of guilt. Mom, I was. Stop, I cut him off, holding up my hand. I don't need your excuses. What I need is for you to finally own up to what you've done. No more running. No more pretending like I'm the problem. I could see the regret in his eyes. But that wasn't enough anymore. He had helped her, allowed her to manipulate him, and now he was asking me for forgiveness? Not without proving that he could make it right. Marie stepped forward, her face a mask of calm that I could see cracking. Evie, she said, her voice sweet but tinged with desperation. You don't have to go through all of this. I'll help you. I'll help settle things. You don't need to drag this out. I looked at her, and, for the first time in a long time, I saw through the veneer of control she'd built around herself. This was it. The final test. Help me? I repeated, my voice flat. You've been helping yourself this whole time, haven't you? Using me, using my family. All for your own gain. No, Marie. You've lost that privilege. She opened her mouth to argue. But I wasn't done. You think I'm just going to let you walk away from this? After everything you've done? I'm not that woman anymore. You don't control me. Marie's eyes narrowed, and I could see her panic. Beneath the surface, she wasn't used to being the one on the defensive. You can't do this, she said, her voice low and trembling with fury. You don't know what you're doing. Don't I? I asked, my voice steady. I walked towards her, placing the evidence, the letter, on the table in front of her. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm taking control of my life back. And there's nothing you can do to stop me. Her face turned pale as she looked at the letter, her composure slipping entirely. She tried to lie, to shift the blame. But it was too late. The truth was already out. I turned to James, my voice hard. You can apologize all you want. But it doesn't change anything. You let her manipulate you. And now you're going to fix it. Not just with words, but with action. You'll help me take this back. You'll help me make sure this farm stays in the family. James swallowed, his face full of regret. I will, Mom. I promise. I promise? I snapped. You've made promises before, James. It's time to stop talking and start acting. Show me you're willing to fix the damage you've done. Show me that you're still the son I raised, not the man she turned you into. He looked at me, guilt written all over his face. I'm sorry, Mom. I am. I'll make this right. I'll do whatever it takes. I stared at him, the anger still burning inside me. But I saw a flicker of hope in his eyes. Maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for redemption. Marie was still standing there, her face red with rage. You think you've won? She spat. This isn't over. You don't have the power to change anything. I stepped closer to her, my voice cold. You're wrong. I've had the power all along. You just never thought I'd use it. But here's the thing, Marie. I don't need you. And I don't need James to fight my battles. I'm done being controlled by you. She backed away, her hands shaking. You can't do this, she repeated. But her voice had lost its edge. I already have, I said. A quiet satisfaction settling over me. I turned to James. This is your chance to make it right. But don't think for a second that I'll let you off easy. Not this time. The silence in the room was thick with tension, but I felt the weight lift from my shoulders. I had made my decision. I had stood up for myself, for my family, and for the future I had worked so hard to build. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of peace. The legal battle was over. The truth had come out. And I had won. As the papers were signed, and the deal was made, I looked at James. My heart heavy but resolute. He was my son, and I could see the man he could become. But things would never be the same. This is just the beginning, I said quietly. I'm done looking back. The house was quiet now, a stillness hanging in the air that felt foreign. After everything, the emotions had ebbed, but the weight of the past few days still pressed down on me. I stood in the living room, looking out the window, at the land that had seen so much. The land that had once been a symbol of everything I held dear now felt like a battleground. Yet, I couldn't help but feel a strange peace washing over me. Like I had finally crossed into new ground. My reflection in the window didn't look back at me the same way it had before. I wasn't the same woman anymore. Gone was the woman who had been worn down by years of manipulation and betrayal. The woman standing here now was stronger, more resolute. Fought for everything I had, my family, my land, my dignity, and I'd be damned if I was going to lose it now. The phone rang, snapping me out of my thoughts. I hesitated before picking it up, already knowing who it was. Evie, the voice on the other end was familiar, comforting even. It was from Ruth, an old friend who had known my late husband. I've got something that might change everything. I sat down at the table, feeling a tight knot form in my stomach. Ruth had always been a quiet presence in my life. The kind of friend who spoke rarely. But when she did, her words carried weight. What's going on? I've got a letter here, Evie. From your husband, something you may not have known about. I paused. A letter? Something hidden all these years? The words echoed in my mind. What does it say? There's something about your inheritance, something he set aside for you. Something to do with the farm. I think you need to see it. I could feel the blood rush to my face as my heart began to race. There were more secrets. More things I didn't know. And once again, I had to wonder. How much had been kept from me? How much had been buried? Under years of lies? I'll be right there, I said. My voice steady despite the storm raging in my chest. The truth, it seemed, was still out there, hiding in the shadows. And it was time for me to bring it into the light. When I arrived at Ruth's house, the letter was waiting for me, yellowed with age but still intact. The moment my fingers brushed the edges of the paper, I felt the weight of history in my hands. As I opened it, the words blurred together for a moment before clarity hit. My husband had hidden more than I had ever known about my rights to the farm. There was more to this story. More that had been kept from me by both James and Marie. I sat there for a moment, taking it all in. The revelation was both a gift and a burden. I had a choice now, and I wasn't about to let anyone make it for me. The next day, I called James over. It was time for the final confrontation. There was no more avoiding it. No more pretending that things could go back to the way they were. What had been broken could not be fixed by simple words. The past was not a shadow I could outrun. It was here, demanding to be acknowledged. When James stepped through the door, he looked different. His face was drawn, eyes filled with guilt. But I saw something else. 2. A hint of respect. He wasn't the same man who had walked out of my house weeks ago. And for the first time, I saw him as more than just my son. He was a man, someone who had made his choices and had to face the consequences. I got your message, he said, his voice low. I'm not here to fight, James. I replied, my tone firm. I'm here to get the truth. And there's something you need to know. I handed him the letter from Ruth, watching his expression as he read it. His eyes widened, and I saw the realization hit him. I didn't know about this, he said, his voice thick with disbelief. I swear, I didn't know. I stood, crossing the room slowly, feeling the weight of the decision in every step. James, I don't know what's worse. The lies you've told me, or the fact that I had no idea you were being used this whole time. Marie made you think you had no choice. She manipulated you, and you let her. He lowered the letter, eyes full of remorse. I didn't want to hurt you, Mom. I felt stuck. I thought I was helping. I know you thought that. But helping isn't about giving up everything that matters. You betrayed me, James. And I've been silent for too long. Just like I've been silent about everything else. But I won't be silent anymore. He swallowed hard, the weight of his apology hanging in the air. I'm sorry, Mom. I wish I could take it back. Words are one thing, I said softly. The hurt still raw in my chest. But actions? They're what count now. Later that day, Marie showed up at my door, her usual air of control swirling around her like a thick fog. But today, there was something different about her. She was desperate. I've been thinking, she began, her voice far too sweet for my liking. Maybe we can work something out. You don't have to fight me on this. I'm willing to settle. Just let me help you, Evie. I could see the desperation in her eyes, the mask slipping as she realized she was losing. Help me? I repeated, the irony of it not lost on me. You've been trying to control everything, Marie. You think a little deal will fix it? Her face flushed. You don't understand. I did what I had to do. You did what you wanted to do. I countered, my voice cutting through her excuses. And now you're going to face the consequences. She opened her mouth to speak. But I didn't let her. You're scared, aren't you? Scared of losing your grip on everything. But guess what? You already have. Marie froze, her usual venom replaced by something I hadn't expected, vulnerability. She lowered her gaze. And for the first time, she seemed almost human. I was scared, she whispered. I never thought you'd stand up to me like this. I didn't soften. You don't get to manipulate me anymore. Marie. I'm done with everything laid bare. I looked at James one last time. I'm done being the victim. And I'm done with people telling me what I should be. No one controls me. Not Marie. Not you. Not anyone. James stepped forward, his voice filled with resolve. I'm with you, Mom. I'll help you fix this. I'll do whatever it takes. I looked at him, really looked at him. For the first time in a long time, I saw the man he could become. Not the boy I'd raised. And for the first time in years, I felt like I could finally breathe. The past is over, I said softly, feeling a wave of relief. And I'm ready to move on. It was a quiet morning, when I stood in the middle of the house. Now so different from when all this began. The once echoing with tension, now felt like a reflection of the strength I had built over time. The house had witnessed my struggles, my losses, but now it was a symbol of my transformation. A space where I could finally breathe. The years of being caught in the storm were over, and I was ready to leave it all behind. The phone call had come that morning. The lawyer, calm as ever, had told me what I needed to hear. Evie, everything is settled. The house is now fully under your name. The legal issues are officially resolved. My heart had skipped a beat at the confirmation. I had won. I had fought and taken back what was mine. I had stood firm, faced the hardest battles, and now the weight of it all had lifted. The house was mine, but more than that, I was free. I stood there, the phone pressed to my ear, and, for the first time in a long while, I truly believed that everything I had lost could be found again, but this time it would be on my terms. The days that followed were a blur of decisions. The past had been a heavy weight, dragging me down, but now, there was only the future. A future where I wouldn't be defined by betrayal. A future where I could stand tall. No longer the woman who had been taken advantage of. James came to see me that afternoon. His presence still felt strange, like a bridge half built. But I saw something in him now, a man who had fought his own demons, and was finally ready to make amends. "Mom," he started, looking nervous. "I've been thinking about everything. About what I did. And how I hurt you." He paused, his eyes not quite meeting mine. "I'm sorry. I know I can't undo the past. But I want to make it right." I sat down slowly, looking at him with a mix of frustration and something else. Hope, maybe. It had been so long since I'd let myself feel that. "James, you can't fix everything with an apology. You hurt me, and I can't just forget that." His face fell, but I could see the sincerity in his eyes. "I know, Mom. I know, but I want to do better. I'll prove it to you. I'm ready to be the son you deserve." For a moment, we just sat there, both of us processing everything that had happened. And for the first time, I saw a flicker of the boy I used to know. The boy I raised. "It's never too late, James," I said softly. "But it starts with you." Then, out of nowhere, he handed me a letter. "I found this," he said. "I thought you should have it." I opened the letter carefully, recognizing my husband's handwriting instantly. As I read the words, tears welled up in my eyes. It was a letter from him. Something I had never known existed. He had written to me in the final days before he passed. He talked about the future, about his hopes for us and the family. It was as if, in that moment, I felt his presence again, offering me the strength I needed. "I never got to tell you how proud I was of you." The letter read, "Keep fighting for what's yours, Evie. And never forget how much you are loved." I folded the letter, my heart heavy with emotion. "I needed this," I whispered. "Thank you." Later that day, Marie showed up. As expected. Her presence, like a shadow, always made me uneasy. But I knew it was time to finish what had started. "I've been thinking," she said, her voice smoother than I remembered. "Maybe we can work something out. Sell the house, settle this once and for all. We can make a deal, Evie. You know you don't have to carry all this alone." I met her gaze, my voice steady. "I'm done being manipulated by you, Marie. It's over. Don't get to control me anymore." Her smile faltered, but she quickly recovered. "You're making a mistake. You can't walk away from all of this." "I'm not walking away," I said, my words firm. "I'm standing my ground. You've done enough, Marie. Now, it's time for you to face the consequences of your actions." Her face twisted with frustration. "You think you've won? You haven't. You're nothing without this house." I stood taller, feeling a weight lift from my chest. I'm more than this house, Marie. And I'm more than the games you've played. I'm done letting you tear everything apart. I'm free. She froze, her mouth opening and closing like she was searching for something to say. But there was nothing left. You can't break me anymore, I told her. I'm done. That night, as I sat on the porch looking out at the land, I finally felt at peace. The past was behind me. The battles fought, and the truth stood clear in front of me. For the first time in years, I could breathe freely. The weight of everything, James' betrayal, Marie's manipulation, was lifted. And I was standing tall. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the landscape. The future stretched before me, wide and open, and I could finally see it for what it was, a blank page, waiting to be written. And I was ready. I had made my decisions. I had reclaimed my life. And now, the only thing left was to live it. A few weeks later, I booked the trip. It had always been a dream of mine. To see a place far from everything I had known. A place where I could just be. Somewhere that represented the future I was claiming. As the plane soared above the clouds, I finally realized the only thing holding me back all these years was the weight of my own fears. And now, I was free.